Good afternoon, everyone. As you all know, today there was prelims and we are here with the prelims discussion. One by one, every subject would be discussed and I'm going to start with modern history. As far as modern history was concerned, in today's prelims paper, there were 5 questions. Technically, one question was of medieval, but we consider it under the modern only because the chapter Arrival of Europeans is taught in modern. Let me start the discussion and we'll do the, what should be the cutoff and everything at the end once we have done with the discussion of every subject. So let us look at the first question that came in modern and as you can see, this is modern history. The first question, consider the following pairs. Party and its leader is mentioned, Bharatiya Jansangh, Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, Socialist Party, C. Rajgopalachari, Congress for Democracy, Jagjeevan Ram, and Swatantrata Party, Acharya Narendra Dev. Now, for a second, if you look at this and think about this, that which party was there in modern? You all would know that we only speak about Socialist Party. Under the modern history, when we teach this subject, we talk about Socialist Party, that it was started by Acharya Narendra Dev. Other big leaders were like Lok Nayak, Jayaprakash Narayan and all. So, Socialist Party should have been here with Acharya Narendra Dev. So, this option 2 was wrong. C. Rajgopalachari, on the other hand, tall leader of Congress, who was the first premier of Madras. Later, after independence, he had his differences with Jawaharlal Nehru, and he had gone away from Congress and formed his own party, that was Swatantrata Party. And basically, if you all will study about Swatantrata Party, this party was very much, West aligned. Talked about liberalization in 1950s, late 1950s, when this party had been formed around 1959. It had totally those views about what we follow today. Pro-US, they were against the non-aligned movement. They wanted more closed, I would say, cooperation with US and all. So these two options, 2 and 4, they were interchanged. These two are wrong. Now, if I look at other, this is very, very easy. Bharatiya Jansangh, everybody knows that Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee was one of the, I would say, founder member of Bharatiya Jansangh, very tall leader, and those who are studying current affairs, so many initiative schemes have been named after Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee in the last few years. So 1 was absolutely correct. Last comes Congress for Democracy. That is mentioned under Babu Jagjeevan Ram, very tall leader. Was a minister in Jawaharlal Nehru's interim cabinet before independence, and after that was the defense minister, remained the deputy prime minister, great man. And he did form this particular, party, that is Congress for Democracy, and this was formed after he had left Congress because of his differences with Madam Indira Gandhi during emergency period. Along with Hemanti Lal Bahuguna, Nandini Satpathy, he had left and formed this party, that is Congress for Democracy. So this is a correct option. This is a correct option. So the correct answer here is only 2. If you have studied modern, you should have known about Socialist Party. If you have gone through your post-independence book, you would be knowing about the other parties, specifically Swatantrata Party and Jansangh, very clearly mentioned. So this is the answer for this question, that is B is the answer. I would put it under the moderate. No, it's not very tough, it's not very easy, medium level question. Let's move to the next question. Question number is 11. Who was the provisional president of the Constituent Assembly before Dr. Rajendra Prasad took over? Now, most of the times we talk about that Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the president of Constituent Assembly. If I'm not wrong, I think this has been asked in around 15, 20 years, minimum 20 years ago. This question had been asked. And if you look at these names, big, tall names, but the correct answer is Dr. Sachidanand Sinha. He was made the temporary president of the Constituent Assembly as he was the oldest member. And that's why, as is the norm, usually the first sitting, the oldest member or the most experienced members are made the speaker. Later, after the election, the new person comes. The similar thing came and had happened over there. So Dr. Sachidanand Sinha was the correct answer when it comes to this question number 11. So D is your answer. Moving ahead, and again, if you ask me, this is a factual question. You know, you don't know, you don't know. So again, I'll put under the medium level category, but it's not difficult. Some would say it's an easy question because this is a fact which most of you would be knowing. Moving ahead to the question number 12. With reference to the Government of India 1935, consider the following statements. It provided for the establishment of an all India federation based on the union of the British Indian provinces and princely states. Number 2, defense and foreign affairs were kept under the control of the federal legislature. Which of the statements given, I would say, are correct? Now, if you look here, statement number 1 is absolutely correct. It provided for the establishment of an all India federation based on the union of the British Indian provinces and the princely states. This is a correct statement. You all know GI Act 1935, they wanted to bring this federation. Unfortunately, because of the, I would say, hesitation on the part of the princely states, it never ever happened. Of course, they had abolished diarchy in the provinces. They wanted to bring diarchy at the center. There are so many other provisions. So one had to be correct. So either A or C could be the answer. These two were not the answer. Now, defense and foreign affairs were kept under the control of federal legislature. Now, if you see this thing, this is wrong statement. Now, first of all, I'll tell you one thing. I remember in 2018, there was a question. Prelims question. Question was, in the federation established by the GI Act 1935, residuary powers were given to which of the following? And in that 4 options were there. The correct option was Governor General, and one option was, which was wrong, was federal legislature. So I took the help of this question, where they have given 4 options. Out of those 4 options, Governor General is separate, Federal Legislature is separate. Clearly, UPSC makes a distinction between these two. These two are very, very different. Now, for this question, I had gone and I had looked into your particular book, that is your B.L. Grover. And in B.L. Grover, clearly it is mentioned, and I would quote exact words of B.L. Grover. The power of legislature was cribbed, cabined and confined. Certain subjects were specifically excluded from the purview and jurisdiction of federal and provincial legislature. What are those? Specifically laws that affected British sovereignty, or the laws that affected royal family, or the matters that concerned Army Act, Air Force Act, etc., etc. So clearly, defense was not coming under the federal legislature. And that makes 2 wrong, and that's why the correct answer to this question would be A, 1 only. That's the correct answer for question number 12. Moving ahead, and see, this is again a medium level question. Everybody should be knowing about 1. Now you had to guess about 2. Most of the times we say, and always we have said, that when it comes to defense, the Britishers were never ever ready to trust us. Till the last day, if you talk about defense, defense was kept under the British Governor General or the British Defense Minister. The Commander-in-Chief was British. So this, you should have made a guess that 2 is wrong. Moving ahead to the next question. The next question is, who of the following rulers of the medieval India gave permission to the Portuguese to build a fort at Bhatkal? Now, Bhatkal, very, very, popular place, very, keeps on coming in news. It's in your Karnataka. Now, there are 4 options given, and the correct option is Krishnadev Rai, the great ruler of this place. Because if you all would remember, Portuguese came to our country in 1498. Vasco da Gama had come. Then they had different governor generals. Initially, Almeida was the governor general. But the real governor general was Albuquerque, who was also known as the founder of the Portuguese rule when it comes to India. And Albuquerque had done a treaty. We usually teach this, that they had done a friendly treaty with the, Krishnadev Rai, who was the ruler of this place at that point of time. So around 1510, this was the treaty done. And under this treaty, there were many provisions like the Portuguese promised that the best Arabian horses would only be given to the Vijayanagar kingdom, would not be provided to Bijapur. Similarly, Friar Louis was to stay in Vijayanagar kingdom as the envoy of the Portuguese. Apart from that, one very important point was that he also gave them the permission to build this fort at Bhatkal. So the correct answer to this is A. I said this is a question of medieval history taken in modern because we teach arrival of European under modern segment. Overall, I would say again a medium level question, not very tough because most of the people would be knowing about Krishnadev Rai and his great contributions to our country. Last question that came from modern was, with reference to revenue collection by Cornwallis, consider the following statements. Under the Ryotwari settlement of revenue collection, the peasants were exempted from revenue payment in case of bad harvest or natural calamities. Number 2, under the permanent settlement in Bengal, if the zamindar failed to pay his revenues to the state on or before the fixed date, he would be removed from his zamindari. Now, if you ask me what is the exact answer, presently I'm confused about this question. Let me tell you why. With reference to revenue collection by Cornwallis, now we all know Cornwallis had introduced permanent settlement. He had not introduced Ryotwari. If that is the case, one should be wrong. And absolutely correct that when it comes to permanent settlement, under that, if the zamindar does not pay the rent or the revenue on the time, there was a sunset law which came in 1794. So it appears by that logic 2 should be correct because it is a provision of permanent settlement. But then there are issues with regards to this question. One of the issue is that under Ryotwari settlement, one provision came in 1792 itself as an exception in 2 districts, Baramahal and Salem district. Ryotwari was introduced. After the Third Anglo-Mysore War, these areas had come under the control of British and they had introduced Ryotwari here. Overall, in the rest of the country, specifically in Madras province, Ryotwari was introduced in 1820. But in 2 districts, Baramahal and Salem, it had been introduced in 1792. And if you look at Cornwallis, he was the Governor General of India from 1786 to 93. So from that angle, if you see, this point can be there in 1792, but there is no clarity that whether in 92 itself they would have brought this provision of bad harvest and natural calamity and then give the exemption. My understanding is that this might be a provision which would have come later. It wouldn't have come in the very first 1792. So I would go ahead and keep 1 as a wrong statement. Moment 1 is wrong, these 2 are wrong. Now comes your second point. How does UPSC take this question? Why I am saying this? Because it is mentioned with reference to revenue collection by Cornwallis. So Cornwallis is in India as a Governor General between this 7 years. And sunset law is coming in 94. That is after Cornwallis had gone, then this point had come. So by writing this, what does UPSC want to say us? I'm not very sure. How do they interpret this question? For me, if you ask me right now, how do I interpret this question? I would say I would go ahead with B as a correct statement. Because even though this sunset law came a bit later, but then this is a point that comes under Cornwallis only. So I would say because, permanent settlement, it is he who has introduced it along with John Shore. So I would give the credit of point number 2 to him only and would go with B as the answer. I would put it as a tough question because of too many things that comes to mind when you are attempting this particular question. So these were the 5 questions as far as modern is concerned. Personally, if you ask me, okayish paper, not very, very tough questions, because if you look, we have been constantly saying when it comes to modern that certain areas have become a lot favorite for your UPSC. Anybody who has attended the classes would know I always say that do study the chapter of Constitution, do study the chapter of Economic History. Even if you are studying 2 chapters, these 2, and I said do go for arrival of Europeans. So this is something that those who would have attended the lectures would be knowing. These were the 5 questions, and that's all for the discussion for modern history. We'll come with the next discussion very soon. That's all. Thank you. Goodbye.